Thinking of playing Boots and Saddles from the Assault series. In Stride commentary. The fact that these Soviet tanks, it's not, well, yeah, I guess you could call it a charge. They charged the Americans in cover in the woods there. So the fact that the T-64s only had to survive one rate of fire. One rate of fire from the American defenders. Well, I hope I did that right. I think it's one rate. Any single step may fire against any single stack in any single hex once with a rate of fire of 1. Alright, I hope I did that right. Because obviously the rate of fire for one step of the M1 would be 2. But it specifically says with a rate of fire of 1. That looks a little contradictory, but the fact that they're limited makes perfect sense, and I think, off the top of my head, I have a gut feeling that this is the type of little touch that would be stripped away in the, simplifying that is done too often in war games. So it's good. It makes sense to me. Now they continue moving on, and so they're going to enter the hex, and they're going to do close assault. And I like that the Assault series keeps close assault simple. I've talked about this before in other settings, but close assault is just very close range combat. So I've never understood why there should be an entirely different set of mechanics for it, but I don't know. Maybe there are some design justifications for that, but at this scale and scope, when I'm imagining, 3, maybe 1 or 2 tanks now charging up on 4 Abrams in cover in a defensive position in the woods there, I still think of that as just very close fire. So the simplicity of it is it's just simultaneous fire. Now it's at a range of 0, but back up. I think that when they enter, I think that the Americans are going to get another. Oh, that's why they're going to wipe them out, almost certainly, because isn't that, well, they rolled a 1, so they did wipe them out. But isn't that interesting? And looks like the designer paid attention here. Notice how the 2-hit goes way out at max range for APDU is 1, and the chance of hit goes all the way up to 9, but then it goes back down to 8 in range, range 0 or the same hex. Interesting. But anyways, actually they wiped them out. All right. I'm going to play on and try to get another example of close combat, because I do believe this would be an elimination, because that was one rate of fire of opportunity fire in another hex of the Soviets movement. I don't see why that would not be eliminated. So they lost 1 step in the adjacent hex and their second step in the actual hex that they were trying to assault into. Okay. So Soviet second movement phase, and just a quick discussion of operations points here. The headquarters units with the platoon moves on its own, free of charge. This stack moved with 1 operations point, moved in combat formation because it was visible to the headquarters at the start of the move. Now this over here, I believe that the headquarters could have, I believe that the headquarters here could see the units down there. I used the line of sight graph, but I am not convinced that I used it properly, so I'll have to I know I'll have to get more experience with it, but I do believe that it showed me that it was visible, so they expended their second operations point over there for that stack. So these guys already moved. I already moved them. Now the headquarters is keeping a close watch on the other platoons there in the adjacent hex. They come out of cover, and they're still in combat formation. They'll stay in combat formation. Move an allowance of 3. They rotate before entering their first hex like that. 1, 2, rotate again, and 3. I think that's how that works. Expended 3. Movement points, full movement allowance. For the American second movement phase, the headquarters and platoon there went into cover. They changed into combat formation and went into cover. Now when I come around to the Soviets next, one thing I'm wondering is, so the dense woods separates these two hexes. Movement is prohibited. Does that mean that fire is prohibited as well? Actually, now that I think about it, it should be. But I wonder what the rules say about that. In which case, Soviets have to go around this dense woods. Because it's continuous here. It's continuous here. So they're going to keep pushing forward and see if they can survive the opportunity to fire and then close combat. So we're in the 5th game turn, Soviet first movement phase. So this is interesting. Which makes perfect sense for this scale and scope. I cannot send one platoon at a time here to withstand enemy fire without it costing me. In other words, I could take the 2. I think I could expend 1 operations point to move 1 platoon forward, and then afterwards spend a 2nd operations point for the 2nd platoon, or just 1 for the stack. But if I pay 1 for the stack, then the stack has to move together. So I'm going to experiment with that. Moving the stack as a whole. Oh, well, actually, I do think they see. Actually, I think they see them. Just eyeballing it there. Definitely have to practice line of sight here, but okay. So I'm gonna move this one, and I'm gonna move these guys up. All the Americans can do opportunity fire because they're all in cover. Okay, looking at this again, I think each step got to fire 1 rate of fire against the 2 Soviet platoons moving there. And that was 5 US shots. And it actually resulted in 3 hits. So I think, hope I'm playing this right. I am not 100% sure I'm playing this right, but I guess there's 1 Soviet step left, and now they're going to move to. Now they are going to move into the American hex there, and I guess they get another rate of fire attack. So I don't think they're going to survive this. Yeah, I hope I played this right, but they did not survive. So, not sure I'm playing that right. Hope so. These guys will move up and we'll see, but at this rate, I don't see how the Soviets overtake the Americans.